The sound of the sewing machine filled the small shop as Ifeoma worked on a dress. The bright yellow fabric spread across her lap, the smooth texture cool against her palms as she guided it through the machine. The dress was for Madame Chinyere, one of the wealthiest women in Umachukwu village, and it had to be perfect. Ifeoma's fingers moved with practiced ease, stitching the final details, but her mind wandered. Outside her shop, the village bustled with life. Women walked to the market with baskets balanced on their heads, chatting and laughing. Children played in the dusty streets, their loud, happy voices carrying through the air. Ifeoma could hear everything, but she stayed focused on her work. She always stayed focused. Anything to avoid the glances and whispers that followed her whenever she stepped outside. "Aha! Ifeoma, you're still not done?" Madame Chinyere's voice interrupted her thoughts. Ifeoma looked up quickly, a polite smile spreading across her face. "Almost, ma. Just finishing the hem." Madame Chinyere leaned against the doorframe, her wide frame blocking the sunlight. She was dressed in her usual brightly colored wrapper and blouse, her chest adorned with gold jewelry that jingled when she moved. She had the kind of figure the village admired, full, round, and confident. She looked at Ifeoma's slim frame with a slight smirk, the kind that wasn't mean but wasn't kind either. "I still don't understand how you make clothes for other people when you don't even have the body to fill them," Madame Chinyere said with a laugh. Ifeoma's fingers tightened on the fabric for just a second, but her smile didn't waver. "It's not about me, ma. It's about making sure you look beautiful." "Humph," Madame Chinyere said, crossing her arms. "You better hurry up. My husband won't wait forever at the dance." Ifeoma nodded and turned back to her sewing. Her chest felt tight, but she pushed the feeling down. She was used to comments like that. Everyone in Umachukwu seemed to think it was their right to remind her of what she lacked. She finished the dress a few minutes later and handed it to Madame Chinyere. The woman held it up, admiring the neat stitches and vibrant design. "At least you're good at what you do," she said grudgingly. "I'll pay you later." Before Ifeoma could protest, Madame Chinyere was gone, her laughter trailing behind her. Ifeoma sat back in her chair, letting out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. The shop felt too quiet now, the noise from the street muted as though the walls had thickened. She looked at the pile of unfinished dresses on her work table and tried to find the energy to start again. A shadow darkened her doorway. "You need to stop letting her talk to you like that." Ifeoma turned to see Nkem, her childhood friend, leaning against the doorframe. Nkem was taller than Ifeoma, with a strong, curvy figure and a loud voice that made people pay attention. Her hands rested on her hips as she looked at Ifeoma with a mix of frustration and pity. "It's nothing," Ifeoma said, waving her hand. "It's not nothing," Nkem said, stepping inside. "Every time she comes here, she finds a way to insult you. Why do you let her? What do you want me to do, Nkem?" Ifeoma said, her voice sharper than she intended. "Fight her? Stop sewing for her? This is how I make money." Nkem sat on the edge of the table, careful not to disturb the fabric. "I'm not saying you should fight her, but you don't have to sit there and smile while she talks down to you. You're better than that." Ifeoma didn't answer. She didn't want to talk about Madame Chinyere or anyone else in the village. She just wanted to finish her work and go home. Nkem sighed. "All right, fine. Let's talk about something else. Have you heard? Emeka is back." At the mention of his name, Ifeoma's heart did a little flip. She tried to hide it, keeping her face neutral as she folded a piece of fabric. "I heard," she said lightly. Nkem wasn't fooled. "Don't pretend you're not excited. I saw the way you used to look at him before he left for Lagos." "That was years ago," Ifeoma said quickly. "He probably doesn't even remember me." "Oh, he remembers," Nkem said, grinning. "I saw him at the market this morning, and he asked about you." Ifeoma's hands froze. "He did?" Nkem nodded. "He asked if you still had your shop. I think he might come by to see you." The thought of Emeka walking into her shop made Ifeoma's chest tighten in a different way. She pictured him as he used to be, tall, handsome, and confident, with a smile that made her feel like she was the only person in the world. She wondered if he had changed. "You should wear something nice tomorrow," Nkem said, interrupting her thoughts. Maybe that green dress you made for yourself. I don't have time to think about that, Ifeoma said, shaking her head. I have too much work to do. You always have too much work, Nkem said, rolling her eyes. You deserve to enjoy yourself once in a while. Ifeoma didn't respond. She wanted to believe Nkem, but it was hard. How could she think about enjoying herself when she was constantly reminded of how different she was from the other women in the village? As Nkem left, promising to return the next day, Ifeoma sat alone in her shop. She tried to focus on her sewing, but her thoughts kept drifting to Emeka. She didn't know why the idea of seeing him made her nervous. Maybe it was because she didn't want him to see her the way the rest of the village did, as someone who didn't quite measure up. The sun was setting when she finally closed the shop and walked home. The path was quiet, the sounds of crickets filling the air. Ifeoma's house was small but tidy, with a single room for sleeping and another for cooking. She sat on her bed, staring at the ceiling as the events of the day played over in her mind. She thought about Madame Chinyer's words, about Nkem's encouragement, and about Emeka. Most of all, she thought about the feeling that had been growing inside her for years. A longing to be seen, not as a tailor or a hard worker, but as a woman. Her chest felt heavy, and for once it wasn't because of the weight of the day. It was the weight of being different, of not fitting into the mold the village had created for women. She wondered if there was a way to change that, to change herself. She pushed the thought away, shaking her head. It was silly. She was who she was, and no amount of wishing would change that. But as she lay in bed, staring at the shadows on the ceiling, the thought crept back into her mind. What if she could change? What if there was a way to be seen, to be admired, to be enough? She closed her eyes, willing herself to sleep, but the question stayed with her, lingering like a soft, persistent whisper. The next morning, Ifeoma was back in her shop, surrounded by fabric and the sound of her sewing machine. She tried to focus, but her thoughts kept drifting to Nkem's words from the day before. Did Emeka really ask about her? Why would he? She shook her head, pushing the thought aside. There was no time to waste daydreaming. The village was livelier than usual, with people moving about in hurried excitement. Ifeoma noticed it when she stepped outside to stretch her legs. Women were chattering in groups, children ran in and out of the market square, and even the men seemed more animated than usual. Something was happening. She didn't have to wonder for long. Nkem came rushing into her shop, her face lit with excitement. Ifeoma, you won't believe it. What now? Ifeoma asked, brushing a piece of thread off her skirt. Baba Ijibu is here, Nkem announced, her hands on her hips like she had just shared the biggest news in the world. Who is Baba Ijibu? Ifeoma asked, frowning. Nkem gasped, as though Ifeoma had just asked what the sun was. You don't know Baba Ijibu? He's the famous herbalist. People say he can cure anything. They say he has potions for beauty, love, money, everything. Ifeoma raised an eyebrow. And you believe that? Nkem waved her hand dismissively. It doesn't matter if I believe it. What matters is that the whole village is talking about him. He set up a stall in the market square, and everyone is rushing there to see him. Ifeoma sighed. I don't have time for that nonsense. I have work to do. You always have work to do, Nkem said, rolling her eyes. Come with me, just for a few minutes. It won't kill you to step out of this shop. Before Ifeoma could protest, Nkem grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the market square. The crowd around Baba Ijibu's stall was bigger than Ifeoma expected. Women jostled for space, their voices blending into a noisy hum. The man at the center of it all stood tall, wearing a flowing white robe and a matching cap. His beard was long and neatly trimmed, and his eyes seemed to sparkle as he spoke. Ladies, there's enough for everyone, Baba Ijibu said, his voice smooth and commanding. I have solutions to all your problems. Do you want your husband to love you more? I have the answer. Do you want to look younger and more beautiful? I have the answer. Do you want to make more money? I have the answer. The women cheered, hanging on his every word. Ifeoma folded her arms, watching from the edge of the crowd. This is ridiculous, she muttered. Kem nudged her. Why are you so serious? It's just for fun. It's not fun if he's lying to them, Ifeoma said. He's probably just here to take their money. Kem shrugged. Maybe, but look at them. They're happy. What's the harm? As Ifeoma watched, a young woman stepped forward, holding out a handful of Naira notes. Baba Ijibu, I want to be more beautiful. My husband doesn't look at me the way he used to. Baba Ijibu smiled, his teeth white against his dark skin. Ah, my sister, you have come to the right place. I have something special for you. He reached into his stall and pulled out a small brown bottle. This is the nectar of elegance. Rub a little on your face and chest every morning, and you will see the difference. The woman took the bottle with shaking hands, her face glowing with hope. Kem leaned closer to Ifeoma. You see that? Imagine what he could do for you. Ifeoma stiffened. What's that supposed to mean? I didn't mean it like that, Kem said quickly. I just meant, you're always so hard on yourself. Maybe he can help you feel better. I don't need help, Ifeoma said sharply. I'm fine the way I am. Kem gave her a look but didn't argue. As they turned to leave, Baba Ijibu's voice rose above the crowd. You there, young lady, why don't you come closer? It took Ifeoma a moment to realize he was talking to her. The crowd parted slightly, and she felt dozens of eyes on her. Her cheeks burned as she shook her head. No, thank you, Baba Ijibu chuckled. Don't be shy. I can tell you have questions. Come. Ask me anything. Kem nudged her. Go on. What's the worst that could happen? Ifeoma hesitated, then stepped forward reluctantly. Baba Ijibu's eyes sparkled as he looked her over. You are a beautiful young woman, he said, his voice low and smooth. But I sense that you don't see yourself that way. Ifeoma's stomach tightened. I didn't come here for anything, she said quickly. I was just looking. Looking is the first step, Baba Ijibu said, his smile never faltering. Tell me, what do you wish for? What is the one thing you want that you think you can't have? The question caught her off guard. She opened her mouth to deny it, but the words wouldn't come. Baba Ijibu leaned closer. Whatever it is, I can help you. All you have to do is trust me. Ifeoma shook her head, stepping back. I'm sorry, I have to go. Without waiting for Kem, she turned and walked away, her heart pounding. Later that evening, as Ifeoma sat alone in her shop, she couldn't shake Baba Ijibu's words. They echoed in her mind, stirring up feelings she had tried to bury. She thought about the women in the crowd, their hopeful faces as they bought his potions. For a moment, she wondered if there was something to it. What if he really could help her? What if he had something that could make her feel enough? She shook her head, frustrated with herself. This is stupid, she muttered. But deep down, the thought had already taken root. The night was quiet, with only the sound of crickets breaking the silence. Ifeoma sat on her bed, staring at the ceiling. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't stop thinking about Baba Ijibu's words. They played over and over in her mind like a song she couldn't turn off. What is the one thing you want that you think you can't have? She squeezed her eyes shut, trying to block it out. But deep down, she knew the answer. She wanted to be noticed, to be admired, to feel like she mattered in a village that always made her feel like she wasn't enough. Her heart thudded in her chest as she sat up. The thought that had been lingering all day took hold, and she couldn't ignore it anymore. She had to know if Baba Ijibu could help her. She had to at least try. The streets were dark as she stepped outside, wrapping her shawl tightly around her shoulders. The moon cast a pale light over the village, but most of the houses were dark. Everyone had gone to bed. Ifeoma moved quickly, her sandals making soft sounds against the dirt road. When she reached the market square, Baba Ijibu's stall was still there, glowing faintly under a lantern. He sat behind the table, looking as calm and confident as he had earlier. He didn't seem surprised to see her. Ah, young lady, he said, his voice low and smooth. I thought you might come back. Ifeoma hesitated, her hands clutching her shawl. I'm not sure why I'm here. Baba Ijibu chuckled softly. You are here because you have questions, and I have answers. Sit. She lowered herself onto the wooden stool across from him, her hands fidgeting nervously in her lap. What do you want? He asked, leaning forward slightly. Ifeoma looked down at her hands, then back up at him. I want to be different, she said quietly. I want to feel beautiful. Baba Ijibu nodded slowly, as though he had been expecting her answer. And you shall. I have just the thing for you. He reached under the table and brought out a small brown bottle. The liquid inside shimmered faintly in the lantern light. This is the nectar of elegance, he said, placing it gently on the table. Rub a little on your face and chest every morning, and you will see changes. But you must follow the instructions exactly. No more, no less. Ifeoma stared at the bottle, her heart pounding. Is it safe? Baba Ijibu's smile didn't falter. Of course, I have sold this to many women, and they have all been happy with the results. But remember, you must not tell anyone about this. It is our secret. She hesitated, her mind racing. How much does it cost? His smile faded slightly, and his tone grew serious. This is not cheap, my dear. Beauty is a treasure, and treasures have their price. 5,000 naira. 5,000. Ifeoma's eyes widened. That was a lot of money. More than she made in a week. Do not think of it as money, Baba Ijibu said smoothly. Think of it as an investment in yourself. Isn't it worth it to feel confident? To walk through the village with your head held high? Ifeoma bit her lip, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts. She thought of all the times people had laughed at her, the whispers behind her back, the way Madame Chinyere looked at her like she wasn't good enough. She thought of Emeka and the way she wished he would notice her. Finally, she reached into her bag and pulled out the money she had been saving for months. Her hands trembled as she placed it on the table. Baba Ijibu's smile returned as he slid the money into his pocket and handed her the bottle. You have made the right choice, he said. Follow the instructions, and you will not regret it. Ifeoma held the bottle tightly as she walked back home, her heart heavy with a mix of excitement and fear. She placed it on her bedside table and stared at it for a long time before finally lying down. The next morning, Ifeoma woke up before the sun. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the bottle. Part of her wanted to throw it away, but another part, stronger and more determined, told her to try it. She opened the bottle, the scent of herbs and something faintly sweet wafting out. Carefully, she rubbed a small amount onto her face and chest, just as Baba Ijibu had instructed. The liquid felt cool against her skin, and she couldn't help but wonder if it was already working. As the day went on, she couldn't stop checking herself in the small mirror she kept in her shop. At first, she saw nothing different, but by the evening, she noticed her skin looked a little brighter, her cheeks a little fuller. It was subtle, but it was enough to make her heart race with excitement. Over the next few days, the changes became more noticeable. Ifeoma's chest began to fill out, her skin glowed, and even her posture seemed different. She caught people staring at her in the market, and for the first time, the looks weren't accompanied by whispers or laughter. You're looking good, Ifeoma, a customer said one afternoon. What's your secret? Ifeoma shrugged, trying to hide her smile. Just taking better care of myself. Kem noticed the changes too. Something's different about you, she said, narrowing her eyes. You're glowing. What's going on? Nothing, Ifeoma said quickly, avoiding her gaze. Kem raised an eyebrow. If you say so. A week later, Emeka walked into her shop. Ifeoma's heart nearly stopped. He looked even more handsome than she remembered, his tall frame filling the doorway, his smile warm and genuine. Ifeoma, he said, his voice deep and smooth. I heard you're the best tailor in the village. She felt her cheeks heat up. I try, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. I need a new shirt for the festival next week, he said, stepping closer. Think you can help me? Of course, she said quickly. Come in. As she took his measurements, her hands shook slightly, but she kept her composure. Emeka chatted with her like they were old friends, and for the first time, she felt like he saw her. Not as a tailor, but as a woman. When he left, he turned and smiled. I'll see you at the festival. Ifeoma's heart soared. For the first time in her life, she felt beautiful, confident, and worthy. But as she stared at the bottle on her bedside table that night, a small voice in the back of her mind whispered, "At what cost?" The morning sun filtered through the small window of Ifeoma's room as she stood in front of her mirror. She hardly recognized the woman staring back at her. Her skin had a new glow, her chest was fuller, and her features seemed softer, more balanced. She ran her fingers over her face, hardly believing the changes. As she walked to her shop, heads turned. The women whispered, and the men smiled at her in a way that made her cheeks warm. She tried to act like she didn't notice, but her heart raced. For the first time, she felt seen. Inside the shop, Nkem burst through the door, her face full of curiosity. "All right, Ifeoma, talk. What is going on?" "What do you mean?" Ifeoma asked, pretending to focus on a piece of fabric. "You know exactly what I mean," Nkem said, sitting on the edge of the work table. "You look different, better. Don't tell me it's just sleep and water." Ifeoma hesitated, biting her lip. "It's nothing, Nkem. I've just been taking care of myself." "Taking care of yourself?" Nkem raised an eyebrow. "Ifeoma, I've known you since we were kids. You don't just take care of yourself and suddenly look like a princess. What are you hiding?" "I'm not hiding anything," Ifeoma said, her voice defensive. Nkem leaned closer. "Is it a man? Did someone give you something?" Ifeoma froze for a moment, then shook her head quickly. "No, it's not a man." Nkem watched her carefully, her eyes narrowing. All right. But if you're doing something risky, you'd better tell me." Ifeoma forced a laugh. "I promise it's nothing risky." Nkem didn't look convinced, but she let it go, changing the subject to the upcoming village festival. The festival arrived sooner than Ifeoma expected. She spent the afternoon preparing, slipping into the green dress Nkem had convinced her to make months ago. It fit her perfectly now, hugging her new curves in all the right places. When she looked in the mirror, she hardly believed it was her. As she stepped into the festival grounds, the crowd seemed to part for her. Women whispered behind their hands, and men turned to watch her pass. Ifeoma's heart swelled with a mix of pride and nervousness. She felt like she was floating. "Ifeoma," a familiar voice called. She turned to see Emeka walking toward her, his smile wide and warm. He was dressed in a crisp white shirt, the one she had tailored for him. "You look amazing," he said, his eyes lingering on her. "Thank you," she said softly, her cheeks burning. "Come, let me buy you something to drink," he said, holding out his hand. She hesitated for only a moment before taking it. They walked through the festival together, stopping at stalls and talking like old friends. Ifeoma felt a warmth she hadn't known before, a sense of belonging she had always craved. But as the night went on, a strange heaviness began to settle in her chest. At first, she thought it was the excitement or the heat, but the feeling grew worse. By the time they reached the dance floor, her breaths felt shallow, and her vision blurred. "Are you all right?" Emeka asked, his brow furrowed with concern. "I'm fine," she lied, forcing a smile. But as they started to dance, her legs gave way beneath her. She felt herself falling, the world tilting around her, and then everything went dark. When Ifeoma woke up, she was lying on a mat in a quiet corner of the festival grounds. Nkem was kneeling beside her, fanning her face with a piece of cloth. "What happened?" Ifeoma murmured, her throat dry. "You fainted," Nkem said, her voice sharp with worry. "What is going on, Ifeoma? This isn't like you." "I don't know," Ifeoma said weakly. "Don't lie to me," Nkem snapped. "You've been acting strange for weeks. First, you look completely different, and now you're fainting in the middle of a dance floor? What is it? Tell me the truth." Ifeoma's eyes filled with tears. "It's nothing, Nkem. Promise. It's not nothing," Nkem said, her voice rising. "You're my friend. If something is wrong, I need to know." Before Ifeoma could respond, Emeka appeared, carrying a cup of water. "Is she all right?" he asked, his voice full of concern. "She's fine," Nkem said quickly, taking the cup. Emeka knelt beside Ifeoma, his eyes searching hers. Are you sure? You looked so pale. I'm fine, Ifeoma said, sitting up slowly. I think I need to rest. Emeka nodded, helping her to her feet. Let me walk you home. No, I'll take her, Nkem said firmly, wrapping an arm around Ifeoma's shoulders. Emeka hesitated, then nodded. All right, feel better, Ifeoma. As they walked back to her house, Nkem kept her arm around Ifeoma, her grip firm. Talk, Nkem said once they were inside. Ifeoma sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the floor. It's nothing, Nkem. I swear. Nkem folded her arms, her eyes blazing. If you don't tell me what's going on, I'll start asking questions around the village. Do you want that? Ifeoma's chest tightened. She knew Nkem wasn't bluffing. Taking a deep breath, she reached for the small, brown bottle on her bedside table and held it out. This, she said quietly. Nkem took the bottle, turning it over in her hands. What is this? It's something I got from Baba Ijibu, Ifeoma said, her voice barely above a whisper. He said it would help me. Nkem's eyes widened. You've been using this? Are you serious, Ifeoma? Do you even know what's in it? He said it was safe, Ifeoma said quickly. And it works. Look at me. Look at you, Nkem said, her voice rising. You fainted, Ifeoma. You're not eating properly, and you're acting strange. How is that safe? Tears spilled down Ifeoma's cheeks. I just wanted to feel beautiful. I wanted people to notice me. Is that so wrong? Nkem's expression softened, but her voice was still firm. It's not wrong to want to feel good about yourself. But this is dangerous. You don't even know what's in it. I don't care, Ifeoma said, her voice trembling. For the first time in my life, people see me. They respect me. I can't go back to the way things were. Nkem sat beside her, taking her hand. Ifeoma, you've always been beautiful. You didn't need this. And if you keep using it, who knows what will happen to you. Ifeoma didn't respond. She couldn't. The thought of going back to being invisible was too much to bear. As the night wore on, Nkem stayed by her side, her presence a silent reminder that she wasn't alone. But even as Ifeoma drifted off to sleep, the small, brown bottle sat on the table, its promise of beauty and belonging too powerful to ignore. Ifeoma woke the next morning feeling heavy, like a rock was sitting on her chest. Her body ached, and her head throbbed as she sat up slowly on the edge of her bed. She glanced at the small brown bottle on her bedside table and frowned. For the first time, it didn't feel like a gift. Felt like a weight she couldn't put down. She barely had time to think about it before Nkem burst into the room. Good, you're awake. We need to talk. Ifeoma rubbed her temples. Nkem, it's too early for this. It's not too early when your best friend is doing something this dangerous, Nkem said, folding her arms. Do you know how scared I was last night? What if something worse happens? What if you don't wake up next time? Ifeoma sighed, avoiding her friend's eyes. I'm fine now. It was just the heat and all the excitement at the festival. Nkem shook her head. Don't lie to me, Ifeoma. She pointed to the bottle on the table. This thing is not normal. You don't know what's inside it. You don't know what it's doing to your body. It's working. Ifeoma snapped, her voice sharper than she intended. Can't you see that? People notice me now. They respect me. Even Emeka, what? Nkem interrupted, her voice rising. Do you think he'll still like you if he finds out you're using some fake potion to look like this? Do you think it's worth risking your health, your life, just for him to notice you? Ifeoma stood up, her fists clenched at her sides. You don't understand. Nkem, you've never been the one people laugh at. You've never been the one everyone calls plain or unwomanly. You don't know what it feels like to be invisible. And you think this is the answer? Nkem shot back, her eyes blazing. You're better than this, Ifeoma. You don't need some magic potion to prove your worth. If Emeka or anyone else can't see how amazing you are, then they're not worth it. Ifeoma turned away, her chest tightening. She didn't want to cry, but the tears came anyway. You don't get it, Nkem. You don't know what it's like to feel like you'll never be enough. Nkem's voice softened. You've always been enough, Ifeoma. You just don't see it. But this bottle is not the way to find out. Please, promise me you'll stop using it. Ifeoma stayed silent, staring at the floor. She wanted to believe in Nkem, but the thought of giving up the one thing that had finally made her feel beautiful was too much. Over the next few days, the whispers in the village grew louder. People began to notice more than just Ifeoma's transformation. They noticed her pale skin, her tired eyes, and the way she moved like someone carrying a heavy load. Madame Chinyere was the first to say it out loud. She walked into Ifeoma's shop one afternoon, her loud voice echoing through the room. Ifeoma, what's wrong with you? You look like a ghost. Ifeoma forced a smile. I'm fine, Madame Chinyere. Just tired from all the work. Tired? Madame Chinyere snorted. You're more than tired. Look at you. Are you sick? I'm fine, Ifeoma repeated, her voice tight. Madame Chinyere narrowed her eyes. Well, you'd better take care of yourself. No one wants a sick tailor. When she left, Ifeoma slumped into her chair, her head in her hands. The cracks were beginning to show, and she didn't know how much longer she could keep up the act. One evening, as she sat alone in her room, the nightmares began. They were vivid and terrifying, filled with dark figures chasing her through endless corridors. She woke up drenched in sweat, her chest heaving as she gasped for air. She reached for the bottle on her table, but her hands trembled so badly she almost dropped it. For the first time, she wondered if Nkem was right. What if this wasn't worth it? What if she was hurting herself in ways she couldn't see? The next morning, she decided to visit Baba Ijibu. She needed answers. The market square was quieter than usual when she arrived, but Baba Ijibu's stall was still there, glowing faintly under the afternoon sun. He greeted her with his usual smile, but Ifeoma didn't feel comforted by it this time. Ah, my dear, he said, spreading his arms. You look as beautiful as ever. What brings you here today? Ifeoma hesitated, clutching the bottle in her hand. Something's wrong. I've been feeling strange. Baba Ijibu's smile faltered for a moment, but he recovered quickly. Strange? How do you mean? I've been fainting, Ifeoma said, her voice shaking. I've been having nightmares. My body doesn't feel right. Is this normal? Baba Ijibu leaned back, his expression calm. My dear, these things take time. Your body is simply adjusting to the changes. You must trust the process. But what's in it? Ifeoma pressed. What am I putting on my skin? He waved a hand dismissively. Herbs, oils, natural ingredients. Nothing harmful. Then why do I feel like this? She asked, her voice rising. Why do I feel worse every day? Baba Ijibu's smile disappeared completely. He leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. Do you want to stop, Ifeoma? Do you want to go back to the way things were? To being invisible? Because that's what will happen if you stop using this. Ifeoma's chest tightened. His words cut deep because they echoed her own fears. She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I don't know what to do. You keep going, Baba Ijibu said firmly. You're almost there, my dear. Don't give up now. Ifeoma nodded slowly, her hands trembling as she clutched the bottle. But as she walked away, a seed of doubt had been planted, and it refused to go away. When she returned home, Nkem was waiting for her. Her friend's face was tight with worry. Where were you? Nkem demanded. I've been looking for you all day. I went to see Baba Ijibu, Ifeoma admitted, her voice small. Nkem's eyes widened. Ifeoma, why? What did he say? He said everything is fine, Ifeoma said, though her voice lacked conviction. He said I just need to trust the process. Nkem shook her head, her frustration boiling over. And you believe him? After everything that's happened? Ifeoma, this man doesn't care about you. He's just taking your money and ruining your life. What do you want me to do, Nkem? Ifeoma shouted, her voice breaking. I can't just stop. I can't go back to being the nobody I was before. You were never a nobody, Nkem said, her voice softening. Not to me. And not to anyone who truly cares about you. Ifeoma's shoulders sagged, and she sank into a chair. I don't know who I am anymore, Nkem. I don't know what to do. Nkem knelt beside her, taking her hands. We'll figure it out together. But you have to let this go, Ifeoma. You have to stop before it's too late. Ifeoma looked at the bottle on the table, her heart heavy with fear and regret. She wanted to believe in Nkem, but the thought of letting go felt like losing everything she had worked so hard to gain. And so, the battle within her raged on, pulling her deeper into a choice that seemed impossible to make. Nkem refused to let Ifeoma out of her sight after their argument. It wasn't like Ifeoma to look so defeated, so drained. The vibrant girl Nkem had grown up with was slipping away, and Nkem couldn't sit back and watch it happen. 2 days after Ifeoma's visit to Baba Ijibu, Nkem stormed into her shop. We need to talk, she announced, shutting the door behind her with more force than necessary. Nkem, not now, Ifeoma muttered, her voice tired as she worked on the hem of a dress. Yes, now, Nkem said, grabbing a stool and sitting directly in front of Ifeoma. This is serious. You can't keep doing this to yourself. I told you I'm fine, Ifeoma replied, not looking up from her work. No, you're not, Nkem snapped. You're pale, you barely eat, and you've been acting like a stranger. Ifeoma, look at me. Ifeoma finally looked up, her eyes filled with exhaustion. What do you want me to say, Nkem? That I regret it? That I hate myself for starting this? I can't stop now. I can't. Yes, you can, Nkem said firmly. But first, we need to find out the truth about that man. He's lying to you, Ifeoma. I can feel it. Ifeoma frowned. What truth? Baba Ijibu said the potion is safe. He said it's just herbs. And you believed him? Nkem asked, her voice full of disbelief. Why would a man like that care about your health? He's making money off you, Ifeoma. Off your pain. Doesn't that make you angry? It doesn't matter, Ifeoma said, her voice breaking. He's the only one who gave me a chance to feel different. Nkem's expression softened, but her determination didn't waver. I understand, Ifeoma, but if you keep using that stuff, you're going to destroy yourself. We need to expose him. How? Ifeoma asked, her voice small. Nkem leaned forward, her eyes blazing with determination. We're going to find out what's really in that potion. And then we're going to tell everyone. That evening, under the cover of darkness, Ifeoma and Nkem made their way to Baba Ijibu's stall. The market was quiet, the only sounds coming from distant crickets and the occasional bark of a dog. Nkem carried a lantern, its dim light guiding their way. What if he sees us? Ifeoma whispered, her heart pounding. Then we'll deal with it, Nkem replied, her voice steady. But we need answers. When they reached the stall, it was empty, just as they had hoped. Baba Ijibu had likely retired for the night, leaving behind only his supplies and the small wooden table where he conducted his business. Nkem handed the lantern to Ifeoma and began rummaging through the items on the table. There were jars filled with strange powders, bottles of colored liquids, and bundles of dried leaves tied with string. What are we looking for? Ifeoma asked, her hands trembling. Anything that proves he's lying, Nkem replied, opening one of the jars and sniffing its contents. She wrinkled her nose. This smells like rotten fish. As Nkem continued searching, Ifeoma's eyes fell on a stack of papers tucked under the table. She reached for them, her curiosity piqued. Nkem, look at this. Nkem took the papers, her eyes scanning the words. Her face darkened as she read. It's a list of ingredients. What does it say? Ifeoma asked, leaning closer. It's not just herbs, Nkem said, her voice low and angry. There are chemicals in here, Ifeoma. Dangerous ones. Things that can hurt you. Ifeoma's stomach turned. He said it was safe. He lied, Nkem said, her voice trembling with rage. This man is poisoning you, and he's probably doing it to other women too. Before they could say more, a voice broke through the silence. What are you doing? They spun around to see Baba Ijibu standing a few feet away, his expression cold and unreadable. The lantern light cast long shadows across his face, making him look even more menacing. "Iphioma," he said, his tone deceptively calm. "I didn't expect this from you." Iphioma took a step back, clutching the papers tightly. "You lied to me," she said, her voice shaking. "You said it was safe." "And it is," Baba Ijibu replied, his smile returning. "But you don't understand the process. These things take time. Your body is simply adjusting." "Adjusting?" Kem snapped. "She's been fainting, having nightmares, and feeling worse every day. That's not adjusting. That's poisoning." Baba Ijibu's smile faltered. "You don't know what you're talking about. Everything I've done is to help her." "No," Iphioma said, her voice growing stronger. "Everything you've done is to help yourself. You don't care about me or anyone else. You just want money." Baba Ijibu's eyes narrowed. "Be careful, Iphioma. You don't want to make an enemy of me." "She's not afraid of you," Nkem said, stepping forward. "And neither am I. We're gonna tell everyone what you've been doing." Baba Ijibu laughed, a low, chilling sound. "And who will believe you? A desperate girl and her loud-mouthed friend? I've helped this village for years. My reputation speaks for itself." "Then we'll show them this," Nkem said, holding up the papers. "We'll show them the truth." Baba Ijibu's smile disappeared completely. He took a step forward, but Nkem didn't back down. "Stay away from us," she said firmly, "or you'll regret it." For a moment, the three of them stood frozen, the tension thick in the air. Then Baba Ijibu stepped back, his expression cold. "You've made a mistake," he said quietly. "Both of you," without another word. He turned and disappeared into the shadows. As they walked back to Iphioma's house, Nkem's grip on the papers was tight. "We have what we need," she said. "Tomorrow, we'll show this to the village." Iphioma nodded, but her heart felt heavy. She had trusted Baba Ijibu, believed his promises, and now she was paying the price. But as she looked at Nkem, her determination grew. She wasn't going to let him hurt anyone else. The next day, they would reveal the truth. And this time, Iphioma wouldn't be silent. The next morning, the market square was alive with its usual buzz of activity. Women bargained loudly with traders, children darted through the crowd with laughter, and the smell of roasted maize filled the air. But Iphioma and Kem weren't there for business or pleasure. They were there for justice. Iphioma stood in the middle of the square, clutching the stack of papers they had found the night before. Her hands trembled slightly, but Nkem stood beside her, a steadying presence. "Are you ready?" Nkem asked, her voice firm but kind. Iphioma swallowed hard and nodded. "I have to be." They made their way to Baba Ijibu's stall, which was already surrounded by eager women. He stood behind the table, his familiar smile plastered across his face as he handed out bottles and jars. "Good morning, ladies," he said smoothly. "How can I help you today? Perhaps a little something to brighten your skin? Or maybe—" "Stop lying to them." Iphioma's voice rang out, cutting through the noise like a knife. The crowd went quiet, and all eyes turned to her. Baba Ijibu's smile faltered, but only for a moment. He straightened, his eyes narrowing. "Iphioma," he said, his tone calm but dangerous. "This is not the time for games." "This isn't a game," Iphioma shot back, holding up the papers. "I know the truth, Baba Ijibu. I know what's in your potions. And it's not what you've been telling everyone." The crowd began to murmur, women exchanging confused and worried looks. "What is she talking about?" one of them asked. "Lies," Baba Ijibu said quickly, his voice smooth. "She doesn't know what she's saying. Iphioma, you've been under a lot of stress. Perhaps you should go home and rest." "No!" Iphioma's voice cracked, but she didn't stop. "I've been using your potion, Baba Ijibu. I trusted you, and it's been making me sick." The murmurs grew louder, the women pressing closer to the stall. "Sick? What does she mean?" "Baba Ijibu, is this true?" Baba Ijibu raised his hands, trying to calm the crowd. "Ladies, please, do not listen to this nonsense. I have helped so many of you. Why would I do anything to harm you? Because you don't care about helping anyone." Nkem's voice was sharp as she stepped forward. You care about money. That's why you've been selling fake potions and lying about what's in them. Fake, someone whispered. Baba Ijibu's smile turned cold. And who are you to accuse me? You have no proof. We have proof, Ifeoma said, her voice shaking but strong. She held up the papers. This is a list of the ingredients in your potions. There are chemicals in here that can make people sick. You've been poisoning us. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The women turned to Baba Ijibu, their expressions shifting from confusion to anger. Is this true? One of them demanded. Baba Ijibu's smile disappeared completely. His eyes darted around the crowd, searching for a way out. This is ridiculous, he said, his voice rising. These are lies. She's just bitter because she wasn't happy with her results. That's not true, Ifeoma shouted. I fainted because of your potion. I've been having nightmares, feeling weak. This is your fault. Nkem stepped closer to the table, her eyes blazing. How many other women have you hurt, Baba Ijibu? How many lives have you ruined? The crowd pressed closer, their anger bubbling over. I felt sick after using his cream, one woman shouted. My skin broke out, and he told me it was normal, another added. Baba Ijibu backed away from the table, his face pale. Ladies, please, let's not jump to conclusions. You've been lying to us, one of the women yelled, her voice trembling with rage. You said your potions were safe. You're a fraud, another shouted. The crowd surged forward, their voices rising in anger. Baba Ijibu stumbled back, his hands raised in a weak attempt to defend himself. Stop! Ifeoma's voice cut through the chaos. The women paused, turning to her. This isn't just about me, she said, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. It's about all of us. He made us believe we weren't good enough. He made us think we needed him to be beautiful, to be worthy. But we don't. The crowd fell silent, her words sinking in. I believed him, Ifeoma continued. I thought I needed to change to be noticed, to matter. But I was wrong. We were all wrong. We don't need him, and we don't need his lies. The women nodded, their anger shifting to determination. What do we do now? One of them asked. We make sure he can't hurt anyone else, Nkem said firmly. The women turned to Baba Ijibu, who was now cornered by the crowd. His confident facade had crumbled, replaced by fear. You're done, Baba Ijibu, one of the women said, her voice low and steady. Get out of our village, another added. Baba Ijibu opened his mouth to protest, but the crowd surged forward, forcing him to retreat. He stumbled back, grabbing a bag from his stall before running into the night. As the crowd began to disperse, Ifeoma felt a wave of relief wash over her. Nkem placed a hand on her shoulder, smiling. You did it, Nkem said softly. No, Ifeoma said, shaking her head. We did it. For the first time in weeks, she felt free. Free from the lies, the fear, and the weight of trying to be someone she wasn't. And as she looked around at the women standing together, she realized she wasn't alone. The day after Baba Ijibu fled the village, Ifeoma stood outside her shop, staring at the horizon. The air felt lighter, as though a heavy storm had passed. People were still talking about what had happened at the market square, but for the first time, Ifeoma wasn't worried about what they thought of her. Nkem arrived mid-morning, carrying a basket of fresh bread. She set it down on the work table and looked at Ifeoma, smiling softly. How are you feeling? Ifeoma shrugged. I don't know. Lighter, maybe, but also embarrassed. Embarrassed? Nkem asked, sitting across from her. Why would you feel that? Ifeoma sighed. Because I let myself believe him. I let him take advantage of me. And worse, I hurt myself because I wanted so badly to be someone else. Nkem reached over and took Ifeoma's hand. You don't have to be ashamed. You were trying to find something we all want, to feel seen, to feel good about yourself. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Ifeoma blinked back tears. But I almost lost myself in the process. But you didn't, Nkem said firmly. You stood up for yourself and for everyone else. That's strength, Ifeoma. Don't forget that. Later that afternoon, Ifeoma decided to visit the village square. She wasn't sure what she was looking for. Maybe closure, maybe just a sense of normalcy. As she walked through the market, people greeted her with smiles and nods. "You were so brave yesterday," a woman said, stopping her. "Thank you for speaking up. I didn't realize how much I had let that man's lies get to me." Ifeoma smiled, though her heart felt heavy. "I just did what I had to." Another woman stepped forward, holding a small jar. "I stopped using his cream after what you said. My skin already feels better." "Thank you, Ifeoma." The warmth in their words eased some of the guilt in her chest. She realized that her pain hadn't been for nothing. She had made a difference, and that mattered. Back at her shop, Ifeoma picked up a piece of fabric, a vibrant green that reminded her of the dress she had worn to the festival. She ran her fingers over it, an idea forming in her mind. When Kem returned that evening, Ifeoma was already at work, the sound of her sewing machine filling the shop. "What's this?" Kem asked, peeking over her shoulder. "It's a new dress," Ifeoma said without looking up. "But it's not for me. It's for anyone who needs to feel beautiful, just the way they are." Kem grinned. "You're starting something new, aren't you?" Ifeoma nodded. "I want to make clothes that fit every body type, every shape. No more trying to change ourselves. We're enough just as we are." Kem clapped her hands together. "Ifeoma, that's brilliant. People are going to love this." Word of Ifeoma's new project spread quickly. Women began visiting her shop, not just to order clothes, but to share their stories. They talked about the pressure they felt to look a certain way, the insecurities they carried, and how Baba Ijibu's lies had preyed on those feelings. One by one, they began to let go of those insecurities. Ifeoma's shop became a place of healing, a place where women could feel seen and celebrated for who they were. A week later, Emeka came to the shop. Ifeoma hadn't seen him since the day of the festival, and her heart skipped a beat when he walked through the door. "Ifeoma," he said, his voice warm. "You've been busy." She nodded, her hands trembling slightly as she folded a piece of fabric. "There's a lot to do. I heard about what happened with Baba Ijibu," he said, stepping closer. "I'm sorry you went through that." "It's over now," Ifeoma said, looking up at him. "I'm just trying to move forward." Emeka smiled. "You've done more than that. You've inspired people. That's not something everyone can do." Ifeoma felt her cheeks warm. "I didn't do it alone. Kem helped me." "Still," Emeka said, his eyes meeting hers. "It took courage to stand up and tell the truth. That's something I've always admired about you." Her breath caught. "You admire me?" "Of course," he said, his voice soft. "I've admired you for a long time, Ifeoma. I just didn't know how to say it." She looked at him, her heart pounding. For so long, she had wanted to hear those words. But now, standing there, she realized she didn't need them to feel whole. She had found her own strength, her own voice. Even so, his words felt like a balm, a reminder that she was seen, not because of how she looked, but because of who she was. That evening, as the sun set over the village, Ifeoma sat outside her shop, watching the sky turn shades of orange and pink. Kem joined her, carrying 2 cups of tea. "You've come a long way," Kem said, handing her a cup. Ifeoma smiled. "We've come a long way. I couldn't have done any of this without you." Kem laughed. "You give me too much credit. You're the one who found the courage to speak up." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the warmth of the tea and the cool evening breeze wrapping around them like a blanket. "Ifeoma," Kem said after a moment, "are you happy?" Ifeoma thought about it, her gaze drifting to the horizon. "I think I'm learning to be," she said softly. "For the first time, I'm not trying to be someone else. I'm just me, and that feels good." Kem smiled, raising her cup. "To being ourselves." Ifeoma raised hers in return. "To being enough." And as they sipped their tea, the village around them settling into the quiet of night, Ifeoma felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in a long time. She wasn't perfect, and she didn't need to be. She was enough just as she was.